Who is calling this a conflict of interest?
So as we know, Iger has been on Apple's board since 2011. He also runs Disney, and we spoke to some corporate governance experts who say that this means that they're sort of going in each other's territory because they're both working on these streaming video services. And of course, Apple, as we know, at the end of this month is going to officially enter the TV show and movie entertainment industry. They've been ramping up to this for quite some time. And of course, this is Bob Iger's bread and butter. The problem is that as the chairman and CEO of Disney, he's also going to become very quickly one of Apple's largest competitors. And this harkens back to something we saw about 10 years ago when Eric Schmidt, who was CEO of what was called Google at the time, now obviously Alphabet, had to recuse himself from many Apple board meetings. Of course, he was a board member back then, until Steve Jobs had him resign from the board because things were getting too complicated.
Now, what do we know at this point about Apple's streaming strategy? If you talk to folks in LA, they say Apple's moving pretty slowly. We don't actually know what they're working on or what their strategy is.
Right. I think it's complex to get to a simple type of thing. I think from a consumer perspective, someone who has not been following all the ins and outs and the drama, so to speak, on this project's development, will actually find it quite simple. So I'll talk about it from a consumer perspective. You have this TV app at the corner of your iPhone, your iPad, or iPod Touch. I imagine they'll bring this to the Apple TV. They already have the TV app in the Apple TV, but they'll bring this to the Apple TV as well. And the Mac, you can get all this original content that Apple is developing and providing, in addition to tapping into a subscription plan for things like HBO, Starz, and Showtime, combined with integration with apps like ESPN and the NBA app, plus the iTunes movie and TV show libraries. So a complete package of different entertainment offerings from Apple.
Apple does have this event coming up this month. We don't know a lot about it, but it appears to be tied to streaming. What have you learned so far?
Right, this is not something they've really done in the past. It didn't make sense when they were growing as a hardware maker, but now that they're positioning themselves more as a services company, it makes sense. So this is going to be a media event currently planned for March 25th at the Apple Park campus in Cupertino, California, where they typically hold these types of things, where they're going to be focusing on services. Now, as we know, Apple is working on 3 new services-related projects. One, obviously, this video project that we're talking about. Another is this premium magazine subscription service where you can subscribe to a bunch of magazines for one bundle price, around $10 a month. And they're also working with Goldman Sachs on this credit card, which would tie into Apple Pay. And they're waiting to release a new Apple Pay app for iPhones at the end of March, early April as well.